Here we are with Lewis. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good morning, Marcus. I am a ex farm shop owner, deli owner, and more recently, I started a deli in London, 2014. We sold that in 2019 post Brexit and moved down to Somerset. More recently, I launched and ran Durslade Farm Shop in Somerset, and then moved on to food buying and product development.
Excellent. Good food is.
Uh, for me, obviously the taste, it's got to taste amazing, but for me, good food is honest. By that I mean it's simple, not over processed, made with a real passion for the product, not full of numbers or ultra processed. It's got to taste great, but it's for me it's a lot about the story, and it's got to be true to its origin. So it doesn't have to hide behind kind of marketing, and it's driven much more by passion and quality rather than price.
Excellent. How did you get into the independent food industry?
A long time ago, I used to be a commodities trader for an investment bank, and burnt out of that. But I'd always had a passion for food. My grandparents were dairy farmers here in Somerset, and there was a real movement kind of when I left banking. There was a real kind of spike in artisan producers. A lot of British charcuterie was really starting out, and I decided that I wanted to move into food, and specifically into British artisan food. So we opened Flesh and Flour, it was called, in 2000, I think it was 2015, and our USP was we only stocked British. We didn't stock olive oil. We didn't stock, and it was a deli cafe that also used all of that produce on the menu. So it was kind of the idea was to charge people for sampling, essentially. I mean that was the thing, but that came to an end after the Brexit vote came along. We had two young kids, and it was getting a lot, and decided to sell the business and move out of London. So we've kind of taken things a little bit easier down in Somerset now.
Cool. I might be getting mixed up with somebody else. Weren't you chefing for a while?
Yeah, I mean, I have a very checkered past. I left university and wanted to go into food, and started at Gordon Ramsay's 3-star restaurant in Royal Hospital Road. I soon realised that I was going to kill myself doing 7 in the morning till 2 o'clock the following morning every day, and went into banking because I had a finance degree, with an aim of getting back to food at some point. But yeah, I mean, I've done lots of chefing. I still do bits and pieces here nowadays. It's the cooking, it's the food that's what excites me. So yes.
And what was the high points and low points in the shops?
I mean, low points were probably generally things, disasters. I would say, fridges. I remember going. I think it was my dad's 60th birthday, and we were out in a nice hotel for dinner. We were staying over, and all the fridges went down. Everything went down. We had a power cut, and it was like 4 hours, and we were on that cusp. So I had to leave the nice hotel, nice relaxing evening, drive all the way back, load everything up, try and find refrigeration elsewhere. Those kind of things, floods, toilets overflowing, things are just out of your control. Yeah, I think when you're running a business, obviously the buck stops with you, and you have to be the everything. Sometimes it can be exhausting. High points. I think high points are kind of regular, really. High points are always just little things that happen that make you feel proud about what you've achieved. Good feedback from customers. If you worked at Durslade, there was a lot more kind of own label and production in-house. So we produced a lot of products and recipes that I was part of, that end up being featured in Olive Magazine, or getting Great Taste Awards is always nice. So those kind of things, and also staff that have kind of started and very young, and really gain that kind of passion for food. That always makes me feel personally proud.
Great, that's awesome. So what one action have you implemented that has created a positive result?
I mean, I would go back to staff. I think it's when you're running a shop, or any kind of hospitality business, the staff are what make it. And especially when it comes to kind of artisan food, it's very, very important to do staff training. You and I may know everything about most products and how they're made and where they come from, but customers don't. And the only way that they're going to know, apart from putting ticketing up, or that, is to have staff that know that as well, and have a passion for it. And like I said about good food, like, it's a lot of it is down to the story, and you need to translate that story to the customer, and the only way you can do that is through your staff. So that for me is the kind of the positive result, staff training.
It's really interesting, because I believe that you can set the seed that somebody's going to enjoy something before they get home. And if you talk about the product in a positive way, I've always said, if I said to somebody, I've got this friend, you're going out for dinner, they're all right, there's a bit dry humor, you're probably going to have to pay the bill, but it'll be all right, it'll be an okay evening. But if I say, I've got this fantastic friend, you're going to have a laugh all night, it's going to be amazing, you're going to be in a great restaurant, you're going to have fantastic food, you can build up that you're going to have a good time. You're going to have a good time. And it's the same with food, and if you introduce the product correctly and give it a good introduction, people enjoy it more at home, I think. Sorry to interrupt, which is what happens with
no, I totally agree.
Butchers tell the customer.
And I always use the example of Cornish Gouda. Cornish Gouda's got such a nice story. It's a brilliant cheese, but it's also got the nice story of, essentially he went out and learned how to make Gouda in order to save his family dairy farm.
Right.
And as soon as people hear that, you have to buy some. You have to, and it's such a nice story, and there so many products have that, and that's what makes it good food. It's the story, and it's the honesty of how it's made and why it's made, and also being able to connect to knowing where your money's going to as well. I think that's important.
No, I definitely think people can have their enjoyment slightly heightened by a little bit more information. That's really interesting. Cool. What one thing in the independent food trade would you change if you had a magic wand?
I think one of the hardest things in the independent food industry is all about the story and explaining and that kind of thing. So for me, that it would be the public perception, the average public perception of value. Not all, but because food's been so commoditized over the last 50 years, there is definitely a feeling among many people that all products are equal. A steak is a steak, an egg is an egg, and this and that, and it's just not. You're not from flavor, not from it's. Some people believe that if something's more expensive, it's expensive because of the greed of the producer or the greed of the retailer, and it's just not. So it's hard to kind of explain to people, but that would be my magic wand, to everyone to understand how hard it is to make food and to make money without cutting corners. And that's the thing about it's about not cutting corners, because as soon as you do, you start to lose where you came from.
Exactly. I say to, again, another quick story is, I say, people say to me, went to this restaurant the other day, it was service wasn't great, food was okay, but geez, it was cheap, Marcus. And then you meet the same people 2 weeks later, and I go, "How's it?" "Oh yeah, we went to this restaurant the other night. Food was amazing, service, we were looked after. I mean, it was just the best night we've ever had. Bit expensive though."
Yeah.
I'm like, but it's related, you know, there is a correlation between the two, and it's the same with food. You know, you can have a jar of chutney at 2.50 in the supermarket, and you can have a jar of chutney in a farm shop at, you know, 4.95, 5.95, but they are significantly better.
Yeah, I think the most, when it comes to chutney, the one that you have to look at for a comparison is a supermarket piccalilli.
Yes.
Which is just yellow sludge in a jar, against one in a, you know, a farm shop, which is like really good chunky vegetables with a crunch.
Yeah,
you know, all those things. They're not the same products. And yet a lot of the people that would have the opinions that that's expensive because you've got something I can buy that for £1.20 at Tesco's, are probably the same people that, you know, will spend £150 on a pair of trainers because it's got a name on it. That's the irony. Is food has just been so bastardized and commoditized over so many years that people are, you know, so indoctrinated into this view that takes a long time to change.
And I remember years ago there was an advert from Maureen Lipman on Tesco's where she said, she stopped the manager and she said, "Excuse me," she said, "I want to buy the vegetables at next year's prices because they'll be cheaper." And do you remember there were big stickers on the floor in Tesco's that said all our fruit and veg is 10% cheaper than last year? And there were big blue stickers. I'm like, and even back then, what was that, like 10, 15? I'm going, how can anybody think that cheaper food is the way forward?
No.
You know, it doesn't work like that. You know, it's anyway, listen, we can digress onto that one for ages. But yeah, very good point. Very good point. The value of food. What is the most favorite food product you've ever sold and why?
I think going to the kind of the honesty and everything that artisan food is about, for me, it's probably Liberty Fields apple balsamic. Just the purity of it. I just love, you know, they're lovely people. It's a beautiful bottle. The ingredients list is apples. You know, it's just, it encapsulates everything that artisan food should be. Yeah, I would say that's it.
And they did an apple syrup as well, didn't they?
They do apple syrup. Yeah, they do. You know, I think they've got vodkas and apple aperitifs now. But it's, you know, the first thing that I had from them was that apple balsamic, and I was just, that's something special.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Naughty, I'm calling it now, naughty food secret.
I'm terrible with chocolate. Like, in terms of, I appreciate good food, but I don't appreciate good chocolate. I do appreciate a Cadbury's Dairy Milk. So give me good chocolate, you know, and I like, yeah, okay, yeah, it's nice, but that's the one thing that I will really just, I just want rubbish chocolate. I'm sorry.
I'm really biting my tongue not to join you on that one, but yes, I will subtly say that yes, super. What is it? Garages and Cadbury's milk or whatever it is, a dairy milk. Yes, with funny enough, a bag of crisps. I do like, which leads me nicely into. There's a lovely lady, Maria, that does crisps and chocolate in a bar, and I've always liked crisp and chocolate together.
Crisps and chocolate in a bar.
Yeah. It's called a bar.
Reminds me of that. I once had some chocolate covered pork.
Pork scratchings. Yeah. They were really popular. Mike. Oh wow, wasn't it? But yeah, no, the crisps. I've always liked crisps and chocolate. That's a nice combination. That one, salt and vinegar and a dairy milk. So what is it about the food club over the years that's helped or benefited?
I mean, I think it's just that you're always discovering new interesting brands that that can differentiate you know, us from another shop. I mean, there's been some ones over the years, you know, great discoveries that have now gone on to do, you know, much bigger things from where they started. But it's just having constant newness. I think is important. Give people something interesting to look at, that, you know, that wasn't there when they last came in. And it makes life easier from a admin point of view, that we just get monthly invoices rather than one. And I think it's good as well, because it's coming directly from the supplier. So I prefer it to working with wholesalers who I know obviously have much more of an agenda in terms of shifting stock that they're holding lots of, or stuff like that. So yeah, that would be it for me.
Nice.
And you're okay to speak to as well, Mark.
I do like a chat. I do like a chat. I remember years ago there used to be a thing on your phone bill where it tell you how long you've actually been on the phone, and I can't find it anymore, but I used to get up to quite high numbers of hours on the phone in a week. Brilliant. And tell quickly, what is it you're doing now then? Because you recently
so now I'm working freelance with some small producers who are kind of like have got to a certain stage and they need a little bit of help, either with product labeling, or today I'm doing some recipe development for a company that makes fermented food. Yesterday I was talking to a bakery who have only done kind of food service side of things, and they're looking to do some retail. So we're talking about labeling, that kind of thing. So I've had quite a good education being on both sides. From being from a retail side, I know what the retailers are looking for, and likewise I also know how it is to produce food. So I have a fairly good front to back view of how things work or should work. So that's what I'm doing now. So
I'll put your contact details up at the end.
Oh, thank you.
No worries. So if people need to get in touch and on that side of it, that's great. Lewis, thank you so much for your time. I mean, we've known each other for quite a few years, so really appreciate passing on your insight in retail.
No, thanks for asking me.
No worries. Cheers, buddy. Thank you.
Cheers, mate.